if you look at Rockwell Automation, right, in Rockwell Automation, there is a disconnect between Rockwell's strategic focus and where the market is going, and that is by design. It's coming from the boardroom. And we had this discussion about leadership. So I'm actually, Mark, I'm going to turn it over to you, and let's talk about all the leadership changes that have been going on across that, and kind of what does it look like today, and how you believe that's going to funnel to a more cohesive approach.
Yeah. So in the Netherlands, there's a saying that loosely translates to you've just mowed the lawn in front of my feet. You've cleared the way for me. You've put a lot on the table.
Yeah.
But I'd like to take just a slight step back and ask the question: how does someone become the CEO of a company like Schneider Electric? Right? It's not a fight to the death. It's not a popularity contest. It's not like how politicians get elected, where everybody votes and the guy with the most votes win. It's 100% strategic. Right, the CEO that gets selected for a large company like Schneider Electric gets picked by the board, by the executives. They select the guy and they say, this man has the right skill set and the right focus to enact our strategy. Right, and if you then add to that the stepping aside of Jean-Pascal, who's been in leadership of Schneider Electric for 2 decades, he's not leaving the company, right? So it's not like Jean-Pascal decided, well, he's had enough of Schneider and he's going to chase some other dream. He's still the chairman and he's still with the company, but Peter Herwig is taking over as the CEO. So those two things, I think, are very significant, and should tell you something about the fact that change is coming to Schneider Electric, right?
And let's talk
change in strategy, and therefore now change in CEO.
And let's talk a little bit about Peter's background. So Peter was he was a Schneider guy who went and led Aviva, cool. And then...
Well, I'd like to go a bit further back than that, right?
Yeah.
The first thing that struck me when I went and looked at his career is he started off as an electrician.
Yeah.
Right? Came from tools.
Yeah.
And when I see stuff like that, it really gets me excited. He then qualified as an electrical engineer. He had a very long tenure at Siemens. He was there for, I think, 22 years. Started off, or did, software R&D in motion control, right? So very technical type stuff. And then basically worked his way up to become the CEO of Process Industries and Drives in Siemens before he joined the executive team at Schneider Electric. So the first thing that gives me a very warm, fuzzy feeling about him is he's an engineer, so he speaks my language, right? And the second thing is he's come through industry, right? If you look at you just had it about the product basket, but if you look at the businesses that Schneider, or the verticals that we operate in, it's data centers, it's building automation management, it's energy management. Even that is quite wide. So the fact that our current CEO came through the industry business unit gives me a very comfortable feeling, because I'm an engineer in the industry BU. So I already identify very strongly with our new CEO. I just quickly give you the history about Caspar as well. 7 years at Accenture until 2005, then 11 years at Cisco until 2015, then came to Schneider Electric, also from the industry business unit. He was there for 6 years, and then Caspar and Peter both went to Aviva at the same time in 2021.
Peter was CEO and Caspar was COO.
Correct. Right. And now that Peter has come back to Schneider, Caspar has moved up into the CEO role of Aviva.
So let me ask you this question. So since they were both senior executives, well, they were in the executive leadership at Aviva, but both had backgrounds, prior to that. Should we assume that now the former CEO of Aviva, who's now the CEO of Schneider, and the former chief operating officer of Aviva, who is now the CEO of Aviva, that we will see more of Aviva in Schneider, or do you think it'll be more of Schneider in Aviva?
Right. So exactly that. In preparation for this call, I went and consumed a lot of media about them, interviews that they've had, especially their first interview since they started in their CEO roles. And the message that you get from both of them is exactly the same, right? Firstly, they say that key priority, and it should be for all business, of course, is customer focus, right? There's a recognition that in this period of growth that we had through mergers and acquisition, we've created a bit of discontinuation between all of our different offers. The dealing with one Schneider business unit versus another is not 100% homogeneous, right? There's a strong drive that starts with their leadership to unify not only our offers, but also the way we do business internally, right? I think the most surprising thing I heard from Peter Hervik's interview was that we've got somewhere like 70 different ERP systems in our ecosystem, inside our own company. Our own data infrastructure has got 70 ERPs. It's ridiculous, right? So as we're preaching digital transformation to our customers, we're busy with it ourselves. And as you've said, it's not a project that begins and ends. It's a strategy, right? So we're looking at our entire internal systems, logistics, warehousing, manufacturing, everything. And there's a strong push towards unification. When it comes to our product basket, exactly the same is true. I've seen some product roadmaps that unfortunately I can't spill too much about because it's all confidential and internal stuff. But at all three layers of our stack, apps and analytics, edge control, and connected products, over the next 5 years, things are going to be extremely interesting at Schneider because there's a strong push to unify all of those product baskets. So Rick Bellotta pointed it out in Discord last year already. He said, early this year, he said Schneider/Aviva is in strong need of unification of our offers. Definitely, the Schneider leadership is focused on it.
Here's my opinion on Schneider. I'll go ahead and give it now. Yeah. I'm actually going to answer. I want to talk on messaging and MQTT real quick because there's a lot of questions about MQTT as it relates to GeoSCADA and the Schneider offerings. So, number one, if you look at Rockwell Automation, right, in Rockwell Automation, there is a disconnect between Rockwell's strategic focus and where the market is going, and that is by design. It's coming from the boardroom. At Rockwell Automation, it is coming from the boardroom as a directive that we use our offerings across the stack to get people to buy more Rockwell offerings. And we make strategic decisions to make it hard for you to use a Rockwell product with a non-Rockwell partner, okay? We don't make it impossible, but we try to put just enough of a barrier to steer you back to Rockwell, and that comes from the boardroom, okay? Yeah. I do not believe that that's the case at Schneider in any way, shape, or form. In fact, I think from the boardroom at Schneider, it is what we'll do is we want people to build the best solutions. And if we have the best products at Schneider, they're going to use our stuff. Okay. Yeah. And I believe that that's their strategic focus. Yeah. The problem at Schneider is the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing because Schneider is so big. It's so big. And I think from a strategic focus, they need to focus on unifying messaging, strategy, and execution at Schneider. That's what I believe at Schneider. But go ahead, Mark. Sorry.
Yeah. So you took the words right out of my mouth. That's exactly what's happening at the moment. And so I've not seen any specific roadmaps or strategies or anything. I don't operate at that level. But from the conversations that I've had, I've got one or two friends that do operate at strategy level. I've got contacts into the business via management as well. And I take two things away from the two CEOs that we've got and what they've said. The first one is they both happen to be German. And an interesting thing about Caspar is he also spent some time in the German military when he was a young man. Both of them bring German discipline, right? And I think that's going to filter through the entire organization. And the last thing is, if the last decade of Schneider Electric has been growth through acquisition, I used to joke and say Schneider's philosophy is if you can't beat them, buy them. Okay.
Yeah, I still say that.
it's way more strategic than that. That makes it sound very simplistic. Like, oh, they're competition, we just buy them. No, the companies that we have acquired through the last decade have been strategic, be it for the tech or the people or the customer base, right? There's been a strategy behind it. And I think the change from Jean-Pascal to Peter and Caspar as well is a signal that where the last 10 years, the last decade, we've been outwardly focused, pulling in technologies that we didn't have, trying to get all the building blocks that we need to answer any problem. The next 5 to 10 years is going to be focused inwards, structuring all of that, unifying it, and making a cohesive message out of all of it.